Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar and workshop series conducted by TCS in lieu of the upcoming SCS exams happening in November 2025. My name is Nick and I'm the lead tutor and evaluator for SCS at TCS. So let's look at the session outcomes. First things first, I'm going to share some insights about how we should apply pre-seen information, because at this stage at the SCS exam, you know for a fact that your application skills are heavily tested. So you need to have a good understanding of both the internals and externals of your chosen company. And when developing answers, as and when necessary, you should refer or cite to pre-seen info. There's a methodology in which you should do this in the most successful manner. So all these steps will be covered in the first part of tonight's webinar. And then I will be directing your attention towards an industry analysis followed by pre-seen analysis. So before we get into the technicalities, let me quickly remind you of the upcoming webinars and workshops we have scheduled for you. The most important webinar out of the webinar series, which is the third one, Answering Technique, is happening next Saturday at 9 GMT or 10 AM UK, in which I'm going to teach you crucial answering and time management techniques. After teaching you these two techniques, I will explain how you should implement these techniques in a practical manner by taking you through one of the mock exams which we have developed, thereby explaining how to practically implement these answering and time management techniques. And in the fourth webinar exam prep, I will be also teaching you stress management techniques, because it's essential that you manage your stress levels, especially when attempting mocks, because if you are conversant about the type of stresses you'd be exposed to when attempting the mock exams, then you will know how to tackle stressful situations at your real examinations. So stress management techniques, as I mentioned earlier, will be covered in the fourth webinar. And in the same webinar, I will take you through the exam blueprint, particularly focusing your attention towards the examiner's comments to make sure that you understand what the examiner expects from you. And once we are done with the webinar series, we are kickstarting our workshop series. And in each workshop, I'm going to take you through each pillar, thereby explaining what is covered under your F3, P3, and E3 syllabi. And after doing so, I'm going to take you through a question, a mock exam, and its answer, thereby explaining how to tackle a question tied to one of these pillars. And in each of these workshops, I will be conducting a Q&A as well. And in the final workshop, which happens just 2 or 3 days before your examination, I will be sharing last-minute tips with you to make sure that you have a good understanding of what you need to achieve at your exam. And at the same time, the final workshop will definitely be a confidence booster, because as per the CIMA examiner, if you believe in yourself, if you are confident, then you can easily pass this examination. So make use of these free resources on offer. Attend the webinars and workshops on a weekly basis, which is the best way to learn technicalities. And at the same time, the best way which is the best way to keep tabs about your performance on a weekly basis. All right, so let's direct our attention towards pre-seen application. What is the right approach? So first things first, if you are to apply pre-seen info in your answers, you need to know your key information. So for instance, you need to have a good understanding of the internals and externals of your chosen company, along with what appears within your financial statements. So you have to have a good understanding of the principal risks of your chosen company. So, before you walk into the exam, you need to take steps to identify the type of risks which appear within your risk register. And on top of that, you should have the capability of figuring out whether the mitigatory strategies adopted by your company is, sufficient, or whether we need to go for further enhancements to further insulate us against any type of risks which appear within the risk report. So I'm going to take you through the risk report when conducting the pre-seen analysis. Then you will realize how important it is about the fact that you need to know everything which appears within your pre-seen. And similarly, you need to know your numbers, especially concerning various different ratios. So it's essential that you remember the key ratios. So with the intention of ensuring that we cover both these points, we have developed 3 different resources, and with the intention of ensuring that you gain an in-depth understanding of what appears within your pre-seen, we have developed something called the annotated Preseen, based on which I'm going to conduct tonight's Preseen analysis. And similarly, we have made sure to develop a Preseen mind map. And this mind map will be shared with you via the WhatsApp group, as well as you can download this via your paid as well as free contents via the student dashboard. So when you have access to this Preseen mind map, your job should be to go through this document on a daily basis to keep yourself constantly reminded of the most important points which are highlighted within the Preseen. So if you look at this time's Preseen, which is based on a manufacturer of BEVs or battery electric vehicles, which is named Cewmlator, your Preseen is divided into several different elements. So in the first part, I've highlighted about what appears within your Preseen about the EV industry, and I've also mentioned the type of EVs and the types of issues tied to electric vehicle manufacturing and the dynamics concerning your chosen market. And then I've directed your attention towards the internal dynamics of your chosen company, thereby explaining the history of your chosen company, the type of products which we sell at the moment, and also highlighting the vision, mission, and values, as well as what happens within our factories, what type of batteries we manufacture, how we conduct our sales operations, and all information concerning how we practice governance within our organization, as well as the 6 different risks which appear within your risk register, along with the mitigatory strategies adopted by your company currently. And finally, I've also mentioned what appears within your sustainability report, what appears within the news articles, as well as I've given a synopsis concerning the various different ratios which I've calculated concerning your financial statements. So you have access to the annotated Preseen. You have access to this Preseen mind map. When you have access to all these resources, you need not worry about remembering the key info. Similarly, concerning the financial elements, we have developed a set of slides, or thereby conducting a financial analysis. So we have evaluated each financial statement in depth, yet making sure to keep things simple so that you'd gain an in-depth understanding about the financials of your chosen company. And similarly, we have conducted a ratio analysis, and when conducting this ratio analysis, I've compared Cewmlator's performance against its closest competitor Atoms to make sure that you gain a good understanding of the financial standing of your chosen company against its closest competitor. So you need not worry about these 2 elements. We have covered them for you. And the tricky part is when it comes to referring to or citing Preseen info when developing your answers. So let me quickly take you to one of the answer plans to explain what I'm talking about. So if you look at this answer plan, in here, there's a mention about the beta value increasing. Okay, so when talking about this beta value, you can talk about the current beta of your chosen company, which is 0.56, which is less than 1, which indicates the fact that our shares are less risky compared to the industry average. So this relates to a situation where we are attracting risk-averse investors, because whenever a company's beta is less than 1, such a company's shares are deemed to be less risky. And when this is the case, risk-averse investors will end up investing on such a company. So when we are, and due to some type of an issue we face, or due to some type of an opportunity we are trying to exploit, if the beta value increases, then you should know how it impacts existing shareholder relationships, as well as how it might impact our share price in the long run. So in this question, there is a mention about the beta value. So as and when necessary, you are supposed to bring in Preseen info or refer to Preseen info when developing your answer. So that's exactly what I've done here. But if you look at the entire part of the answer, you do not see any Preseen information. So whenever you are bringing in Preseen info, you should do it with the intention of adding value to your answer. Just because you bring in generic or irrelevant Preseen info, or information from the Preseen which is irrelevant to your scenario, you are not going to get marks. Instead, if the marker feels that you are trying to overload your answer with unnecessary preseen information, your marker will reduce marks. So there's a way in which you should tackle this. I'm going to explain these things in depth in the third webinar, which is happening next Saturday. Whilst teaching you answering and time management techniques, I will explain how to do this in the most practical manner, and you will gain a clear insight of how to tackle preseen application when you watch our master classes and conduct revision based on the answer plans which we have developed. For now, what you need to remember is the fact that don't overload your answer with unnecessary preseen info, because when marking your papers, I've come across answer scripts in which, especially if you're coming through an exemption route, you might be clueless of how to, deal with preseen info, or preseen application rather. So when marking your papers, in most instances, I've seen a situation where students will come up with an introductory paragraph before they develop an answer, which is totally unnecessary. You will learn why it's unnecessary at the third webinar. For now, what I want to highlight is the fact that most students, they before developing the answer, they come up with an introductory paragraph, and in this introductory paragraph, they include irrelevant preseen info. For instance, in an introductory paragraph, students will say, I am the senior finance manager of Cewmlator, which is based in Dachshund, and Dachshund currency is the $. So the question is about managing stakeholders, but you are mentioning the fact that we are operating within a market which is known as Dachshund, and you are talking about the currency of your chosen company or your country of origin, whereas the question is about something else. The question is about managing stakeholders. So, and also remember that the examiner is trying to replicate a real life corporate environment. So it's as if you are receiving an email from your finance director. So should you remind your finance director about the fact that we are based in Dachshund and where our home currency is the $? You should not do so. You won't do it at office. So there's a way in which you should bring in preseen info only with the intention of adding value to your answer, only with the intention of justifying one of your arguments. Just because you bring in generic or irrelevant preseen info and include it within your answer, you are not going to get marks. Instead, the marker will penalize you. And when conducting your preparations, prepare for possible scenarios, yet be open-minded, because when developing the 6 mock exams, we have made sure to cover all syllabus areas. So you need not worry about syllabus coverage, but we are not in a position to predict the scenarios which can be thrown at you with 100% accuracy. So it's up to the examiner to decide which type of scenarios will be tested at the exam. We have somewhat of an understanding of what can be tested, because by looking at the news articles which appear within your preseen, we can stipulate the type of scenarios which can be tested. However, we are not in a position to accurately predict or predict each scenario with 100% accuracy. So when conducting your preparations, your job is to gain an understanding of how each syllabus area will be tested at the exam, and how you should tackle each syllabus area, how you should structure answers concerning each syllabus area. However, don't try to memorize anything, because when going through the answers, when conducting your revision, you should gain an understanding about the logic behind each answer rather than trying to memorize anything, because as I mentioned earlier, the examiner is trying to replicate a real-life corporate environment. So in a real-life corporate environment, you are never in a position to predict the future of your company, even if you are the CEO of your chosen company. So if the CEO cannot predict what is going to happen in the future, the type of issues we might face tomorrow, the type of opportunities which might come our way tomorrow, when the CEO or any other board member cannot predict the future, as a senior finance manager, can you do it? You can't. So prepare for possible scenarios, yet be open-minded, and always remember that the scenario presented at your exam carries the latest information. So the preseen info gives you an indication of what has happened within your industry in the past and what has happened within your company in the past. However, at the exam, fresh information will be shared with you, thereby explaining some type of an issue the company faces at the moment, or highlighting some type of an opportunity the company intends to exploit. So fresh information will be shared with you, and when developing your answers, you need to consider the fresh information which is shared with you. If you rely too much on the Preseen, you are not going to get any marks. Okay, so that's what I wanted to highlight concerning how you should approach Preseen application. And as I mentioned earlier, you will gain a better understanding of how to do these things in the most successful manner when you attend next week's webinar, in which I'm going to teach you answering and time management techniques. All right. So having said that, let's move to the industry and Preseen analysis. So first things first, I'm going to direct your attention towards the industry analysis slides which we have developed. I'm not going to take you through the entire document. I'm going to simply direct your attention towards the industry overview, because I intend to define your industry to make sure that you have a good footing about what this industry is about. And then I'm going to direct your attention towards the industry trends, because based on these trends, scenarios can be thrown at you at your real exam. All right, so let's look at the way in which your market is defined. So this time, Preseen, as I told you earlier, is based on the EV manufacturing industry, or the electric vehicle manufacturing industry. And players within this industry are involved with designing and manufacturing battery electric vehicles. So this is a category of vehicles. I'm going to talk about it in a little while. So there's a separate category of EVs, which are known as BEVs, or battery electric vehicles. And there are plug-in hybrids as well, which are known as PHEVs. So players within this industry are into designing and manufacturing BEVs as well as PHEVs. And on top of that, some players within this industry, they manufacture their own powertrains as well, such as they manufacture their own battery packs, inverters, and e-motors. So some of the major players within this industry, they have their own factories in which they are manufacturing their inverters, their batteries, as well as e-motors. But if you look at some other players, they rely on supplier relationships. So they do not manufacture all these things in-house. Instead, they rely on third-party suppliers. And also, on top of all these various different components and manufacturing operations, these players within this industry, they have developed, and they do manage their own vehicle control software, because in this day and age, there's a lot of data gathering which occurs through software, which connects car manufacturer with the users of the vehicles. So when the vehicle is being driven, the car manufacturers can keep tabs about the performance of the vehicle at any given time. So there's a lot of data gathering. And on top of that, there are various different computers as well as sensors used within EVs these days. And you need to keep updating the software which are used within the vehicle, which ensures better functionality. So concerning all these things, concerning the type of data which is gathered, as well as the software upgrades, companies have manufactured or developed their own software which are used within these vehicles. And on top of that, they keep managing and updating this software as well. And also, some companies had moved into installing or manufacturing charging interfaces as well, because if you look at the electric vehicle market, one of the major issues is the fact that there is a limitedness in terms of charging infrastructure, because you can't find EV chargers all the time. Because of this issue, with the intention of ensuring that customers, are encouraged to invest or purchase an electric vehicle, manufacturers, some electric vehicle manufacturers had developed their own charging interfaces, and therefore they are setting up their own charging interfaces as well. Okay, so as you can see, players within this industry are looking into multiple angles. They are into manufacturing cars, into manufacturing various different components used within these cars, as well as they are into developing and managing software, as well as setting up or manufacturing and setting up charging interfaces. And looking at the main type of activities carried out by players within this industry, there's a lot of focus on research and development, because you should know that this industry is still at its growth stage. We have not hit maturity as yet. We are still in the process of the market is still growing. So in such an environment, it's essential that players within this industry invest a lot on research and development, because new technologies are being introduced to the market. Customer needs are constantly changing. Various different regulations are impacting this industry in terms of wastage management as well as emission management tied to production. I'm going to talk about these things in a little while in depth. So in order to maintain all these things, there's a lot of R&D taking place, which are tied to battery cell and battery pack manufacturing, as well as developing better power electronics, developing better batteries, and developing better power electronics. And also there's a high level of focus on vehicle design as well as assembly, and most players rely on automated manufacturing processes. And there's a lot of concern about linking up the entire supply chains, which are spearheaded by electric vehicle manufacturers. So there's a lot of supply orchestration happening with regards to batteries and semiconductors. So players within this industry, EV manufacturers, what they do is, rather than simply source from various different suppliers, they try to link up suppliers with the intention of ensuring that there's quality achieved throughout the supply network, and at the same time sustainability is not compromised throughout the supply network. And there's a high level of prominence given towards after sales services as well, because as I mentioned earlier, you need to handle software updates as and when necessary. You need to look into the warranty related concerns of customers. Again, I'm going to talk about how these warranties work in a little while. And you need to focus your attention towards recycling as well, because if you look at this industry, it's not too easy to recycle electric vehicles compared to ICE vehicles or vehicles which carry an internal combustion engine, or vehicles which are petrol or diesel powered. So you can easily recycle an ICE or an ICE vehicle. But when you look at an electric vehicle, you cannot recycle it easily, because there's a lot of material which cannot be material used which cannot be easily recycled. And on top of that, it's not too easy to recycle the batteries. There's a lot of various different toxins which included within batteries. So it's not too easy to recycle an electric vehicle. So most players within this industry, they are making a lot of investments tied to coming up with better solutions concerning recycling methodologies. And looking at the goals adopted by players within this industry, they try to deliver safe, reliable EVs at a competitive cost, because when it comes to manufacturing EVs, the price is considerably higher than that of an ICE vehicle. So because of that, companies are always trying to come up with better ways of managing their costs tied to operations, managing their costs tied to the various different raw material and components which they purchase from third-party suppliers, as well as players within this industry are into scaling their manufacturing, as well as improving the range of the batteries. Because if you improve the range of the batteries, the range of the vehicles will increase. And also they are trying to increase charging speeds, because it takes a lot of time for you to charge an electric vehicle as opposed to pumping petrol or diesel to an ICE vehicle, because you can pump petrol within just 1 or 2 minutes. But when it comes to charging an electric vehicle, even if you go for a fast charging, it will still take you 25 minutes. So companies are pushing towards fast charging options. And also they are trying to reduce the life cycle emissions tied to EV manufacturing, because when an electric vehicle is driven, there's no emissions. It's a zero emission scenario. However, when you are manufacturing an electric vehicle, there's a lot of emissions tied to manufacturing, especially emissions. There's a lot of emissions tied to battery manufacturing. So if you look at the entire life cycle of an EV against an ICE vehicle, we know for a fact when you keep using an ICE vehicle, it leads to carbon emissions. However, when you compare the emissions of ICE vehicles against EVs, EVs carry a higher amount of emission, which is primarily tied to manufacturing operations and battery manufacturing elements. So, although EVs carry zero emissions when it is driven, when it comes to manufacturing, there's a lot of emissions tied to battery manufacturing as well as manufacturing EVs. So, because of that, companies are trying to come up with new ways to mitigate their emissions as much as possible, because if you compare the emissions between an EV and an ICE vehicle, it's almost the same. And in most occasions, EV emissions are higher than that of the lifetime emissions of an ICE vehicle. All right, so that's what your market is all about. Then I want to quickly direct your attention towards the emerging trends, which highlight the type of scenarios which can be tested at your exam. So companies are trying to opt for unified charging standards, in which they are trying to develop one plug type for all EVs. Because as I mentioned earlier, there is a problem with charging infrastructure. You will gain a better understanding in a little while when I take you through the internals of your chosen company. So rather than various different companies coming up with their own plug types, if all these companies can collaborate with each other and come up with one single plug type, then any EV user can plug in their car into a public charging point without any issue. So there's a limitedness of charging infrastructure. When this is the case, when customers have to find their own branded charging points, it leads to further inconvenience. So rather than inconveniencing customers, it's better if all the players can get together and come up with unified charging standards. So there's a push towards this element. And on top of that, companies, as I mentioned earlier, are trying to invest a lot of money and come up with high power charging methodologies, thereby trying to set up public super fast chargers. So they try to think in terms of not hours, but minutes. And as I mentioned earlier, as per the current standing or the technological standing of this industry, even if you opt for rapid charging, it takes you 25 minutes. So if it's essential that you reduce this charging time, because customers will be thinking of, okay, within these 25 minutes, what am I supposed to do? And these type of problems are not faced by individuals who will end up purchasing an ICE vehicle, because you can pump in petrol or diesel within just 2 minutes. And there are software defined cars as well, because as I mentioned earlier, various different software are used within electric vehicles in this day and age. So because of that, the software used within these vehicles actually define the range and the performance of EVs. And companies try to monetize various different features, because customers can pay some extra amount of money and go for enhancements. And also, with regards to energy services, cars have the capability of powering their homes, or sharing the excess power generated by the electric vehicles with the general power grid, thereby getting remunerated by doing so. Also, there's a lot of vertical integration happening within this industry, especially given the fact that if you look at Cewmlator's situation, I'm going to talk about it in a little while as well. For now, just remember the fact that we have our own battery manufacturing plant. So since we have our own battery manufacturing plant, why not go for backward vertical integration? Why not try to acquire or merge with a lithium supplier? Because if we do so, we will benefit from high quality lithium input, as well as due to us acquiring or merging with a lithium supplier, we will ensure that we have enough stocks of lithium, because if we run out of lithium stocks, our manufacturing process comes to a grinding halt, because without the lithium, we cannot manufacture fully functional vehicles, because our vehicles are entirely dependent on the lithium batteries, which are supposed to power our vehicles. So there's a lot of vertical integration happening, and some companies had gone for forward integration as well, where in which they have started setting up their own dealerships rather than relying on third-party dealerships. And there's end of life scale up to handle old batteries as well. So at the end of the life of a battery, you have to, either get rid of it or, recycle it. It's not too easy to recycle a battery. So all these things appear within your pre-scene. So companies are investing on end of life scale ups to keep using batteries, which we at the moment, as per the current technology, batteries which cannot be used right now can be enhanced in the future with better technology or with innovation taking place within this industry. And there's a thinking of second life versus with regards to the second life and recycling. Some companies store old vehicles and batteries to reuse in the future, or some companies tend to break down the entire vehicle or batteries and keep using the material which is contained within these dismantled vehicles and batteries. So these are the trends impacting your industry. So having said that, let's try to understand what happens within your chosen industry as per your pre-scene, and then let's try to understand what happens within your chosen company, which is Cewmlator. All right, so looking at this industry, this time's pre-scene, as you know, is based on electric vehicle manufacturers. So let's try to understand how electric vehicles came into the market. So in the late 19th century, electric vehicles were introduced to the market. However, demand dropped in the 20th century since the advent of petrol or diesel powered cars. Why is this the case? Because it's much cheaper to manufacture a petrol or diesel powered car as opposed to manufacturing electric vehicles. Although this was the case, since inception, some type of vehicles were manufactured which can be considered as electric vehicles, such as forklifts, because forklifts are used within warehouses. And within these warehouses, if you pump in petrol or diesel, it leads to emissions. Then people cannot work within these warehouses. So forklifts which operate within these warehouses rely on electric charging. So although demand dropped in the 20th century, still in certain instances, electric vehicles were manufactured and used by human beings. And the demand for electric vehicles all of a sudden picked up in the 2000s due to the environmental concerns and various different governments' emission reduction goals. So especially the countries in the EU or the countries in the West, they started thinking in terms of how the vehicle manufacturing industry is impacting climate change, how the vehicle manufacturing industry is contributing towards the emission problem. So because of these environmental concerns, governments started to threaten to forbid the sale of ICE vehicles or vehicles with internal combustion engines. And because of this, these regulatory changes coming into play, because of this political pressure happening, demand for electric vehicles picked up in the 2000s. And let's look at the car types manufactured within this industry. So you have cars which carry an ICE or an internal combustion engine, which are petrol or diesel powered. And on top of that, you see EVs, electric vehicles as well, which are driven by electric motors. And some electric vehicles have a combination of an internal combustion engine as well as electric motors. As you know, these type of vehicles are known as hybrid EVs, because you have both the ICE system as well as an EV system within these vehicles. And let's look at the types of electric vehicles out there. There are BEVs or battery electric vehicles. So remember, Cewmlator is only into manufacturing battery electric vehicles. We don't manufacture any other type of electric vehicles. So, however, although this is the case, with the intention of giving you a good knowledge of how this industry operates, the examiner has mentioned about various different options when it comes to EV manufacturing. But remember the fact that we are only into manufacturing BEVs or battery electric vehicles. So let's try to understand what BEVs are. These are 100% electricity powered vehicles. And since these vehicles are 100% dependent on electricity, they have large batteries. And these batteries can be recharged at drivers' homes or at public charging points. So you can charge these vehicles at home, or you can charge these vehicles at a public charging point. And when these vehicles are manufactured, there's a lot of emissions, and on top of that, especially with regards to battery manufacturing, there's a lot of emissions. However, when these vehicles are driven, there's no emissions. So that's why we call these zero emission vehicles. And however, although these benefits are there, it is difficult to recover a vehicle when the charge runs out, because when the charge runs out, everything stops within an electric vehicle. You cannot move an electric vehicle. Because of that, you cannot tow an electric vehicle. For instance, if you look at an ICE vehicle, if you run out of gas, you can simply push it, and or you can tow it because the wheels are working. But in an electric vehicle, the wheels won't move if the battery runs out. So because of that, the entire vehicle becomes static. So you cannot tow such a vehicle. Instead, you have to lift an electric vehicle and load it onto a loader or a trailer. So this is one of the reasons why most customers are discouraged. I'm not saying that this is the prime reason, but this is one of the reasons as to why most customers are discouraged from investing on battery electric vehicles. And if you look at the range of battery electric vehicles, it ranges from 160 to 600 kilometers per charge. So once you have charged your vehicle, you can drive it for 160 kilometers. Or if you look at advanced models which carry a larger battery, then you can drive it for 600 kilometers without a charge. And this range of these vehicles depend on the battery capacity. So if, as I mentioned earlier, if the vehicle is huge, then you can have a huge battery. If so, the range is higher. And on top of that, it depends on the driving style as well, because if you're accelerating a lot, the battery wanes off faster. So because of that, the range might dip. And on top of that, it depends on road conditions, because if you're riding your vehicle on a rugged terrain, then it consumes some additional energy. Because of that, the battery wanes off, and when the battery wanes off, the range dips as well. So that's what an BEV is all about. Then let's try to understand what a plug-in hybrid or a PHEV is. So these are the type of vehicles which are powered by a combination of electricity and petrol or diesel. So you have both the option, the ICE elements as well as EV elements within a plug-in hybrid, hence the term hybrid vehicles. So you can plug it in just like a BEV. You can plug your plug-in hybrid and charge your battery. However, it carries an ICE mechanism as well. So the driver can select the power source. The driver can select whether we are using petrol or diesel, or whether we are using our energy which is contained within the batteries. And these plug-in hybrids carry smaller batteries than BEVs, because as I mentioned earlier, BEVs are 100% electricity powered. But if you look at plug-in hybrids, there's a combination of electricity and petrol or diesel. So you can still rely on the ICE elements if your battery runs out. So that's why there's a smaller battery contained within plug-in hybrids as opposed to BEVs. And these batteries are recharged similar to BEVs. You can charge them at home or at a public charging point, and you can drive the vehicle for 60 kilometers on the battery alone. And since there's an ICE element to these vehicles, it carries a fuel tank, and this is a small fuel tank, because you need to have the battery. On top of it, you need to have a fuel tank as well. So these fuel tanks are smaller than typical ICE cars, and therefore these fuel tanks or these vehicles can be refueled quickly. And since there is a fuel tank as well as a battery, the car is heavy because you have both the electric and ICE propulsion units. And since the car is heavy, the range is lesser compared to a BEV. And looking at the HEVs or the hybrid electric vehicles, these are this carries a petrol or diesel engine which generates electricity, which therefore charges the battery while it's being driven. So when thinking about hybrids, think about a generator which you'd use at home. So the generator gives an electric output, However, in order to run the generator, you need to pump in petrol or diesel. So the generator is powered using petrol or diesel, but the generator in return gives an electric output. So that's exactly how a hybrid electric vehicle works. So in order to make sure that the electric vehicle moves or an hybrid electric vehicle moves, you need to pump in petrol or diesel, because the petrol or diesel engine will uh, power the motors and make sure that the wheels start turning. However, whilst being driven, you create some energy, and this excess energy is gathered within the batteries which appear within these hybrid vehicles. And this power which is contained within these batteries are used to assist ICE vehicles or the internal combustion engines, especially when it comes to accelerating. So you can get a performance boost, as well as you can achieve better fuel efficiency due to the fact that in these hybrid vehicles, the excess energy which is created is stored and then is used to boost the performance of the internal combustion engine. So therefore, hybrid vehicles are fuel efficient than ICE vehicles and carries lower emissions. And looking at mild hybrids or MHEVs, this is another version of a hybrid electric vehicle. The only difference is the fact that mild hybrids uses extremely little electricity, and they are totally reliant on the ICE or the internal combustion engine to power the vehicle. If there's some additional energy which is generated, especially when it comes to braking, some additional kinetic energy is generated. So this type of kinetic energy is contained within the batteries, which and this power is then used to assist the ICE motors or the internal combustion engine based motors within these vehicles. So most experts within the industry, they don't consider mild hybrids to be actual electric vehicles, because there's extremely little electricity being used to power these vehicles. So most industry experts do not consider mild hybrids to be real electric vehicles, because there's absolutely minimal difference between an ICE vehicle and how a mild hybrid electric vehicle functions. All right, so these are the various different car types which you can see within this industry. And then let's try to understand the current industry dynamics. So governments are trying to ban the sale of new ICE cars after the year 2030. So most governments are trying to come up with regulation which prevents the sale of ICE vehicles beyond 2030. However, it does not mean that it will prevent the use of cars sold before 2030. So these laws are going to come into place in 2030. So beyond 2030, if you are into ICE, manufacturing ICE vehicles, you cannot do so anymore. So you have to stop your production of ICE vehicles by 2030. However, if a customer purchases an ICE vehicle in 2029, for instance, even after the law comes into play, you can still keep using your ICE vehicle. So what you need to remember is the fact that manufacturing of ICE vehicles are going to stop beyond 2030, but it does not mean that customers who had purchased an ICE vehicle before this ban comes into play cannot use it beyond 2030, because if you purchased your car before the law comes into play, you can still keep using your car even after 2030. And this will not prevent the purchase of second-hand ICE cars beyond 2030 as well, because there's a huge second-hand market for ICE vehicles as opposed to electric vehicles. So because of that, you can't expect that the second-hand market is going to crash just because this law is going to come into play in the year 2030. And this ban is expected to promote manufacture of electric vehicles. However, the demand for ICE vehicles is still high. Let's try to figure out why this is the case. So let's look at the issues with electric vehicles. The biggest issue is tied to price, because ICE vehicles are expensive compared to, electric vehicles are expensive compared to ICE vehicles. And there's an issue tied to range as well as charging. So let's look at how the price of EVs is considered as an issue which discourages users from purchasing an EV vehicle. So EVs are expensive than ICE cars because the manufacturers are trying to recover new model development costs. So as I mentioned earlier, the electric vehicle market is still at the growth stage. So there's a lot of innovation taking place. There are new technologies being introduced to the market. And when this is the case, in order to keep up with competition, in order to satisfy customers, companies will have to keep churning out new new types of cars which carry new technology, and there are huge research and development costs tied to these new developments, and therefore car manufacturers, when they are selling their vehicles, they always try to recover these additional R&D costs. So that is one of the reasons as to why EVs are much expensive compared to a normal ICE vehicle or a vehicle which carries an internal combustion engine. And also EVs rely on additional components because, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of computing or computer technology being used within these vehicles. There's a lot of sensors being used, and these are the additional or special components which are needed to make sure that an EV is functioning properly. So these components are, and these technologies and components are not cheap, which therefore pushes the manufacturing costs of ICE vehicles and of electric vehicles rather. And because of that, the price keeps increasing as well. And the batteries are costly. It's not too easy to get hold of lithium supplies. And on top of that, it's not too easy to manufacture batteries because in order to manufacture batteries, you need to depend on various different suppliers. You need various different components and commodities such as cobalt, nickel, and lithium. So because of that, battery manufacturing is costs are expensive, and all these various different costs had pushed the price of EVs compared to ICE cars. And the current price difference is the fact that EVs are 26% higher. EV prices are 26% higher than ICE vehicles. So if an ICE vehicle is $100,000, a similar electric vehicle will be $126,000. So there is a significant price gap, which discourages consumers from purchasing electric vehicles. And with regards to range, as I mentioned earlier, the range depends on the driving style and road conditions. And on top of that, the range depletes over a period of time. Why am I saying this? Because as I mentioned earlier, electric vehicles, especially battery electric vehicles, are fully dependent on the batteries. So the batteries are lithium batteries, just like the same type of batteries which you'd see within your phones as well as laptops. So as you would have experienced, after some time, the battery power depletes or the power of the battery degrades. So that's quite normal because batteries have a lifetime. After using it, after charging your batteries over and over for a certain period of time, the battery power decreases. When this is the case, when this happens within an electric vehicle, the range depletes significantly as well. So the range decreases when the power of the batteries decrease, and therefore the type of advertisements which the electric vehicle manufacturers come up with could be misleading, given the fact that, for instance, when they're selling a certain model, they would say, okay, this model carries a 500-kilometer range. But when the users start using it, after some time, after 5-6 years, they figure out that the range used to be 500 kilometers per charge, but now it had dipped to something like 400 or 350 kilometers per charge. And because of that, adverts about the range can be considered as misleading. And due to this range drop, customers cannot sell these cars in the second-hand market. Because of that, the demand for electric vehicles, especially BEVs, is extremely less, considering the range of these vehicles. Because yes, when you purchase a vehicle, there is a specific range. However, when you keep using it, due to the battery power decreasing, the range decreases as well, and therefore you cannot sell these cars in the second-hand market. But these type of problems you won't encounter these type of problems when you purchase an ICE vehicle, because as long as you service your vehicle on time, you can achieve the same range, and therefore there's a second-hand market for ICE vehicles, but you can't see the same type of a second-hand market for electric vehicles, especially battery electric vehicles. And with regards to the issue tied to charging, there are two charging options at our disposal. You can, after you have purchased an electric vehicle, you can either charge it at home or you can rely on public charging points. So let's try to understand what home charging is all about. So there are two different types of home charging. The first option is a normal domestic charging option, which is also considered as slow charging, and it takes somewhere around 7 to 9 hours to charge your vehicle if you depend on a slow charger. And also you can install a rapid charger in order to charge your vehicle within just 25 to 30 minutes. However, the problem is the fact that it's costly. A rapid charger is $1,500 and upwards. And on top of that, there are additional costs tied to these type of installments, because if home electricity needs modification, then you have to spend some additional money on these elements. So you can set up a rapid charger, but it's going to be expensive. And although this is the case, with regards to charging, when you keep using the vehicle, if you charge your vehicle at home, it is going to cost you less than what it takes to pump in fuel, such as petrol or diesel. So if you can charge your electric vehicle at home, it is cheaper than riding an ICE vehicle. And 80% of BEV owners rely on home charging. So 80% of customers who have invested on an BEV, they have access to home charging points. And looking at the other option at our disposal, which is to rely on public charging points, and you can see these type of public charging points within car parks, service stations, and public spaces. And although you can find it in various different places, these public charging points are expensive than home charging, rightfully so, because the public charging services providers will try to create some profit, try to generate some profit. So definitely, when you rely on public charging points, it's going to be expensive compared to you charging your vehicle at home. And the prices charged by public charging points are expensive than pumping in petrol or diesel as well. And there are issues with availability, because you cannot find public charging points easily. And various different car manufacturers have come up with their own technologies with regards to public charging. So because of that, let's assume you have purchased a BYD vehicle. If you see a public charging point which is run by Tesla, you are not in a position to charge your vehicle. You have to find a BEV specific public charging point. So this had led to issues with availability, which therefore discourages consumers from investing on BEVs. And there are two different types of charging which should see in a public charging point. You will see slow or fast chargers, and the battery power will increase from 20% to 80% within 7 to 9 hours. So there's a significant delay when it comes to slow charging. And there's rapid or ultra charging as well, which increases the battery power from 20% to 80% within just 25 minutes. Still, compared to you having to pump petrol or diesel, which is just going to take 1 or 2 minutes of your time, if you rely on rapid or ultra charging, you have to wait for 25 minutes. So customers should figure out what they are supposed to do within these 25 minutes. And 20% of BEV owners solely use public charging. Why? Because in certain municipalities, and depending on where you live, if you don't have access to a garage, then you do not have the opportunity to charge your vehicle at home. Therefore, you have no other option but to rely on public charging points. That's why 20% of BEV owners solely rely on public charging. And as I mentioned earlier, batteries degrade over time. Therefore, the range of these vehicles decrease, and this impacts resale value adversely. Okay, so having said that, let's try to understand the dynamics concerning the electric car market. So as you can see, there's a huge demand for BEVs, and there's exponential growth compared to the growth in HEVs and PHEVs. So there's rapid sales growths, and out of the new cars, new electric vehicles manufactured, 25% are sold globally, and the global market share ranges between 12% to 85%. So if you look at the developed world, more and more customers are purchasing electric vehicles, whereas if you look at the underdeveloped world, consumers are still utilizing their ICE vehicles. They are not shifting towards electric vehicles. And the global market value is $250 billion. This is a huge market, and the demand will grow in the future due to production costs decreasing because there's a lot of automation taking place. Companies are relying on robotics and artificial intelligence, which is used within manufacturing operations with the intention of understanding non-value adding activities and trying to get rid of, and when you get rid of these non-value adding activities, you can significantly reduce your production costs. And on top of that, costs tied to battery manufacturing are depleting with innovative technologies coming into play, and therefore companies are able to manufacture better batteries, which offers a higher range within electric vehicles. And most EV manufacturers used to produce ICE cars, but now most of them have shifted towards manufacturing electric vehicles as well, and some of the players are only manufacturing electric vehicles. So they have fully shifted from ICE manufacturing to EV manufacturing. So one such example is Cewmlator. We used to manufacture internal vehicles with internal combustion engines, but now we are solely manufacturing battery electric vehicles or BEVs. And looking at the major players, major global players, we are ranked third within the market. We are enjoying a 15.4% market share, and our closest competitor, Atom, enjoys a market share of 16.7%. We cannot consider Dilson as a closest competitor because Dilson is manufacturing not just BEVs, they are manufacturing PHEVs as well. All right, so having said that, let's try to understand the internals of your chosen company, which is Cewmlator. So Cewmlator was formed way back in 1952, 73 years back, which is extremely good for our reputation because we have been in operation for 7 odd decades. So customers know our brand, and this should be considered as one of our strengths. And also, we have been quoted within the Dexland stock market since 1968. So for the past 57 years, we have been a listed company, which exposes us to benefits tied to reputation, as well as we have greater access to capital as a quoted company. And when we started our business, we focused our attention towards manufacturing vehicles with internal combustion engines. However, in 2012, we launched our EV range and all-electric range, and we phased out of ICE in 2020. So what you need to remember is, when we started our operations, we were manufacturing ICE vehicles. Then we launched an electric vehicle range in the year 2012. And by 2020, we ceased manufacturing ICE vehicles and solely focused our attention towards manufacturing battery electric vehicles. And this is a good thing to do because beyond 2030, any car manufacturer is not in a position to manufacture ICE vehicles. They will have to shift towards manufacturing battery electric vehicles or EVs. And we have taken this step in 2020 itself. And we are known to be the best we are known to offer the best range, best performance, and best value for money. So what is value for money? Value for money is a situation where we are offering quality at a competitive price. So how can we achieve this? By keeping track of what happens within our value chain or our value network. By keeping tabs about the value chain or the value network, we can easily identify value-adding activities and non-value-adding activities. And our objective should be to get rid of non-value-adding activities. Because when you get rid of non-value-adding activities, you are getting rid of costs and at the same time making sure you are seeking quality improvements. So when you achieve quality and at the same time when you are capable of reducing your costs, then you are well poised to offer value for money because the cost advantages which we have experienced can be passed down to our end customers via reduced prices. So by getting rid of non-value adding activities, we are offering better quality, and at the same time, our prices are competitive when comparing with the other players within the market. So we are well known for our range of our vehicles, the battery range, the performance of our vehicles, and we are well known for offering value for money. And we have been innovative since inception because we have integrated new technology into our car models. Not just our car models, we have integrated better technology into our manufacturing process as well. That is exactly why we are capable of offering value for money within this market. Then let's try to understand the product range. So there are 4 different products which are manufactured by your company at the moment. Tiny is a small battery electric vehicle which is used for urban commuting. This is a 2-seater with a small boot, and the range is just 143 kilometers because this is a small car. Therefore, this carries a small or the smallest battery out of our remaining ranges. And looking at the second range, which is known as the Trap, this is again a small battery electric vehicle, and this is used for sporty performance as well as urban driving. This is a 5-seater with a large boot, and this carries foldable rear seats as well. And the range is a tad higher than that of Tiny, because if you compare the sizes of these vehicles, Trap is a bit bigger. Because of that, it carries the capacity to hold a larger battery. Therefore, the range is higher. And looking at TwistX, this is a BEV SUV, and this is a 5-seater with a very large boot. It carries folding rear seats, and the range is 375 kilometers per charge. And looking at the final range, which is known as the Scorch range, this is a BEV sports car. This is a 2-seater with a boot, and it can hit 0 to 100 kilometers within just 3.1 seconds. And on top of that, this carries a range of 400 kilometers because this sports vehicle, since you'd accelerate when using a sports vehicle, it's better to offer a larger range. If not, the battery will deplete faster or the battery wanes off faster. If so, the car comes to a grinding halt. So our reputation is built on build quality and innovation, and each of our models is in the top 3 with regards to range. So each of our models offer good range. So that is exactly why I said that we are considered to be the best in range, and our Scorch range is hitting 0 to 100 kilometers per hour within just 3.1 seconds. So we are well known for performance. And looking at our Tiny and Trap ranges, we are offering value for money. Okay. And with regards to our warranty covers the car and battery for 8 years or 160,000 kilometers. And if customers are experiencing manufacturing defects, these are corrected at dealerships free of charge. So I'm going to talk about how we conduct sales. Then you will understand why the dealerships are handling the service elements, because we are solely dependent on external parties when it comes to sales, because we are dependent on various different types of dealerships, and these dealerships are supposed to service the vehicles. And if customers are experiencing manufacturing defects, these dealerships are supposed to fix these problems free of charge, and we will bear the cost for it. And the batteries are replaced if the range drops by 20% or more within warranty. So within 8 years or within 160,000 kilometers, if the range of your battery, if the range of your battery drops by 20% or higher, then we are supposed to replace the battery. And the condition is to make sure that the car is maintained and operated as per the owner's manual. So there's an issue tied to this warranty policy. That is why I want to direct your attention towards the news article which appears towards the very end of your Preseen, which is taken from Duxton Dairy. So there's a news article tied to battery degradation. This article highlights about battery degradation, and there are issues with degradation because when the battery, the power of the battery depletes, so would the range And also this leads to longer charging times, which will inconvenience customers. And also it's extremely expensive to replace these batteries. So if someone is claiming a warranty and stating the fact that within just 5 years, the range of my vehicle dropped by 20% or more, then we have to replace the batteries. If we are to replace the batteries, it is going to cost us $20,000 or more. And therefore, it is better to scrap the entire electric vehicle and replace a new vehicle rather than trying to replace the battery, because it's going to be costly, given the fact that the battery is the entire body of the car is built around the battery. So if you want to replace the battery, you have to dismantle the entire vehicle. That is why it's extremely costly. That is why it is costing us $20,000 per car. It could be more than that as well, depending on the size of the vehicle. So on an average, it is going to cost us $20,000 or more to replace the vehicle, replace the battery. So rather than replacing the battery by dismantling the entire car, it makes more sense, operational and financial sense, to replace the entire vehicle. So if we are experiencing warranty issues, then it is going to drain our financial resources. And looking at manufacturers' battery guarantees concerning what happens within your industry, manufacturers guarantee that they are going to replace the battery if the range dips by 30% or more within 8 years. So that is what happens within our industry. So looking at various different players, on average, batteries are replaced if the range dips by 30% or higher. But in our case, we are replacing our batteries if the range decreases by 20% or higher. So definitely, as opposed to one of our competitors facing a warranty claim, there's high probability of us facing a warranty claim, because when the competitors are saying, okay, if the battery wanes off or the range depletes beyond 30%, we are going to replace the battery. We are saying if our battery range decreases by 20%, we are going to replace the batteries. Okay. And the range can dip further even after the guarantee period. So after 8 years, the range can drop further by 50%, 60%, 70%, and whatnot. So the probable exam scenarios which can be tested tied to all this information is with regards to warranty claims, the type of risks we might encounter due to these warranty claims, and how to manage these risks. You should have the capability of suggesting risk containment or risk management strategies when faced with these warranty claims. And also tied to these warranty claims, stakeholder relationships should be managed. So your knowledge concerning stakeholder management can be tested. And if you are facing a lot of warranty claims, it will lead to recalls, and therefore our share price will be impacted adversely. So your knowledge concerning these type of issues tied to warranty claims and how it impacts the share price and the beta of your company will be tested at the examination. So the syllabus areas which can be tested tied to these exam scenarios are your knowledge concerning the Mendelow's matrix, especially when trying to manage stakeholder relationships. You should have the capability of evaluating the link between these type of risks materializing and how it impacts our share price and various different stakeholder relationships. And your knowledge concerning risk identification and mitigation tied to legal issues when we are facing these warranty claims, which in turn will lead to reputational damage and a drain of our financial resources will be tested. So you should have the capability of identifying these risks and coming up with appropriate mitigatory strategies. And when trying to come up with appropriate mitigatory strategies, first things first, before you try to manage each type of risk, you need to categorize the risks concerning the TARA or the TARA framework. So your knowledge concerning risk categorization, which leads to risk containment or management concerning the TARA framework, will be tested at the exam. And on top of that, expect to update the existing risk register concerning the risks tied to warranty claims. Okay, so our warranty policy might expose us. So there's a high probability of us being exposed to warranty claims, which will lead to various different types of risks, as I mentioned earlier. So what you need to understand is the fact that there is a good link between what appears within the news articles and what appears within the other parts of your Preseen document. Okay, and then let's look at the trim levels. There are 3 different trim levels. The base level is the cheapest trim level, where you don't get unnecessary features, and those who are looking to save a lot of money will go for a base trim. And there's another trim level which is known as the Lux trim level, which offers better quality and some additional features such as satellite navigation system and superior folding seat options. And this is popular for trap and twist-X product categories. And there's the premium trim level, which is known as the Grand Deluxe, which offers superior quality and features such as leather seats and thick carpets, superior sound systems, and reversing cameras. And therefore, this Grand Deluxe trim level is marketed as a luxury model because it offers a superb driving experience. And customers who go for Grand Deluxe, they are always concerned about the quality or the luxurious feel of these vehicles rather than looking at the range, because these Grand Deluxe vehicles are heavy compared to the other 2 trim levels. So because of that, as I mentioned earlier, when the car becomes heavy, the range decreases because you have to generate a lot of energy to move a heavy vehicle as opposed to having to move a lighter vehicle. And therefore, the Grand Deluxe range is popular in Scotch. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 4 product ranges and you can opt for any trim level. So for instance, let's assume you are trying to purchase a twist-X. If you're looking to save some money, you should go for the base trim level. However, another type of customer who is opting for a twist-X, if this customer is rich, he or she can go for a Grand Deluxe upgrade or a trim level. Okay, so these are the trim levels. And also there's a mention about various different factories which are located within 5 different countries. So we are manufacturing the twist-X range as well as the Scotch range within Dachshund itself. And there's a separate factory which operates in Eastland, which is into manufacturing batteries. In Farland, we are manufacturing our electric motors. In Winland, we are manufacturing our trap range. And in Groveland, we are manufacturing Tiny. And in each of these production environments, we are relying on highly automated manufacturing. Therefore, it is difficult to rectify production errors as and when they occur when you are reliant on automation. So it's essential that we design our vehicles, design our factory layouts, considering utmost levels of quality, utmost levels of efficiency. If not, if we don't plan well, we might be experiencing production errors, and this will bring our entire production to a grinding halt. Why am I saying this? Let's assume all our factories are working properly, but our battery manufacturing arm has faced some type of a problem. So when we are not in a position to manufacture batteries, we are not in a position to manufacture twist-X, Scotch, trap, and tiny vehicles. Okay, so that's why it's essential that we take steps to prevent production errors from occurring within each of these batteries. And looking at batteries used within our EVs, EVs need large lithium batteries, and the size and shape differ across models, as I mentioned earlier. And there are extremely high emissions tied to battery manufacturing. If you look at the industry dynamics, 45% of EV manufacturing emissions are tied to battery manufacturing. And high emissions with regards to the emissions tied to mining lithium, as well as the transportation of lithium. And the issues concerning our batteries is the fact that we cannot remove our batteries because the vehicles, the bodies of our vehicles are built around the battery. So that is exactly why I said that if you are facing a warranty claim, we will have to, if we want to replace the battery, we will have to dismantle the entire vehicle. If not, we are not in a position to replace the battery. And also another issue is the fact that our batteries create high currents, which might cause electrical fires both within the manufacturing facility and whilst our cars are being driven. So these are risks which we are exposed to given the fact that we are manufacturing battery electric vehicles. And looking at dealership relationships, we are reliant on 4,600 dealerships which are spread globally with regards to sales. So although we manufacture our own cars, we are not into selling them. Instead, we rely on third-party dealerships. So there are 4,600 dealerships spread throughout the world, and these are independent businesses, and they are supposed to sell our vehicles as well as maintain our vehicles. And also, they are supposed to maintain satisfactory performance with regards to achieving their sales targets and achieving good customer feedback. Because if these employees within these dealerships, if they are not offering the best type of service, then it will impact our sales in an adverse manner. So it's essential that we keep tabs about customer satisfaction levels by keeping tabs about how employees within these dealerships are working and driving sales. And each dealership provides a showroom with demonstrator cars, which enables test drives, as well as there should be sales advisors, and also there should be a workshop equipped to maintain and repair our vehicles. Because as I mentioned earlier, if someone approaches a dealership complaining about some type of a technical fault within their vehicles, these dealerships should carry the capability to fix these problems free of charge, and we will foot the bill. Okay, so in order to make sure that customers' cars are serviced on time, and whenever necessary, certain tweaks are done to these vehicles, it's essential that each dealership carries their own workshop equipped to maintain and repair our vehicles. So tied to all this information, the probable exam scenarios which can be tested is concerning various different risks your company is exposed to currently, given the fact that we are dealing with various different types of stakeholders, and given the type of operations we are involved with. So first things first, we are exposed to political, economic, and country risk. Why am I saying this? Because if you look at our manufacturing operations within Duxland, there are 2 factories, but all the other factories are operating within 5 different countries. And on top of that, we are exposed to political, economic, and country risk, given the fact that we are selling globally. We are dealing with 4,600 dealerships spread across the world. Therefore, we are exposed to political changes, which therefore impacts the economic, the economic situation of each country in which we operate. And also, we are exposed to country risk as well. Also, given the fact that we are operating in multiple countries, given the fact that we are selling in multiple countries, we are exposed to foreign exchange risks, and we are exposed to various different operational risks in terms of how we manufacture, how we run our manufacturing operations, as I mentioned earlier. And if you are exposed to any of these risks, then it might impact our reputation adversely, therefore exposing us to reputational risks. And we are 100% reliant on our dealerships. And if our relationships are strained with one or multiple dealerships, it will impact our sales in an adverse manner. And when shareholders get to know about it, then they will be dissatisfied. And if so, the share price might drop in the future. And we are dependent on specialist components and raw materials such as lithium, cobalt, and whatnot. And we are reliant on various different components. So there's a resource dependency risk as well. And also, if we don't comply with manufacturing standards, and when our vehicles are being driven, if customers face type of issue, or if they are facing some type of an accident, this exposes us to legal and compliance related risks as well. So as a senior finance manager, you should have the capability of managing each type of these risks. And also, you should have the capability to evaluate mergers and acquisitions, or when we are trying to pursue some type of vertical integration. So when developing the mock exams, I've made sure to cover all these different types of risks. And on top of that, tied to a merger and acquisition, I've considered a situation where we are trying to acquire a charging point services provider. And on top of that, tied to vertical integration, I've developed a separate mock exam, which is focused on acquiring a lithium supplier. Given the fact that we are manufacturing our batteries, why not go for backward vertical integration? And the syllabus areas which can be tested tied to this information is your knowledge concerning risk identification and management. You should have the capability of evaluating mergers and acquisitions as well as vertical integrations, and also consider post-integration or post-acquisition or post-merger issues and how to fix these issues. And since we are exposed to political, economic, and country risk, your knowledge concerning the Porter's diamond can be tested. And when conducting our operations, we have to uphold sustainability and ethical behavior. And on top of that, whenever we are pursuing some type of vertical integration, or whenever we are opting for some type of merger or acquisition, your knowledge concerning competitor analysis might be tested as well. All right, so having said that, let's try to gain an understanding of the mission, vision, and values of your chosen company. So the mission statement of any given company gives us an indication of the reason for being, or tries to address the question, or tries to answer the question, why do we exist? So let's try to understand why Cewmlator exists within this industry. So Cewmlator exists within this industry with the intention of making the world a better place, and at the same time to provide desirable and sustainable vehicles. And looking at our vision statement, which gives us an indication of what our company intends to achieve in the future, we try to become the leading manufacturer of sustainable vehicles. And with the intention of achieving our mission and vision, we have developed a set of values which can be termed as beliefs as well. And there are 4 different values which are tied to constant innovation, enhancing sustainability, offering highest quality, and addressing the needs of customers. Okay, so all in all, if you look at the alignment between our mission, vision, and values, there's a good alignment. Why am I saying this? If you want to make the world a better place and provide desirable and sustainable vehicles, you have to innovate, you have to be sustainable, you have to offer highest quality, and you have to address the needs of customers. And if you achieve these values, you will achieve the mission. And when we achieve the mission, we will definitely become the leading manufacturer of sustainable vehicles. So there's a good interlink between our vision, mission, and values, which is good for corporate governance, which indicates the fact that our company, as well as the decision makers within this company, know where the company is headed and what the company is expected to achieve in the future. And if we achieve our values, it will drive competitive advantage, because when we are constantly innovating, when we try to be sustainable, when we are offering highest quality and listening to our customers, the customers will love us, and this leads to brand loyalty, and therefore our sales will improve further into the future. And sustainability and customer relationships are considered, therefore it appears that we are considering the integrated reporting frameworks, such as GRI standards. This is when we are not only focusing on the financial performance, we are looking at non-financial performance of our chosen company, which is again good for stakeholder relationships and corporate governance. And on top of that, we need to analyze stakeholders based on power and interest, because there's a mention of one single stakeholder, which is which are our customers. And on top of that, we are trying to enhance sustainability, probably trying to impress our customers. So not just customers should be considered, we should consider various different stakeholders we are dealing with at the moment, given the fact that we are conducting our own operations, yet we rely on third parties when it comes to supplies as well as sales. So there are shortcomings since there's no mention of other main stakeholders such as shareholders, because first things first, as a quoted company, we have to think about our shareholders and then focus our attention towards satisfying various different other stakeholders. But there's no mention about our shareholders within our vision, mission, and values. There's no mention about dealership relationships, our employees, how we deal with our suppliers, how we intend to deal with the regulators as well as the general public, especially given the fact that we are manufacturing a vehicle which is going to pollute the environment. Yes, when they are being driven, there is no emissions, but there's a lot of emissions taking place when you consider the manufacturing operations. And on top of that, it's not too easy to recycle these vehicles, because you can easily recycle an ICE vehicle, but you can't do so when you look at a look at an electric vehicle. So given these facts, it's essential that we fulfill the needs of regulators and general public. And if we have included these stakeholders within or considered these stakeholders when developing our vision, mission, and value statements, then it would have led to a situation where we think about them when it comes to decision making. And there is no mention about safety and reliability. I said that it's extremely important that we conduct our operations, manufacturing operations, in the most efficient manner, in which we have to take preventive measures to make sure that we don't face any problems within our manufacturing elements. However, there's no mention about safety. They should have considered safety at least within the values, but there's no such mention of safety. And also, there's no indication of the type of collaborations we are involved with at the moment. It's essential, since our company relies on suppliers of commodities and components as well as logistics providers. So it would have been better at least to include about these essential relationships within our value statements, within our values rather. And also, it appears that we might be overstating our sustainability claims, because there's a mention of sustainability in our mission, vision, and values. But are we actually poised to achieve real sustainability by operating within this market and by manufacturing battery electric vehicles? Why am I saying this? Because batteries degrade beyond 8 years. So after 8 years, we don't know whether these batteries can be used or not. If these batteries cannot be used beyond the warranty period, then it goes to landfill, because it's not too easy to recycle the batteries. And on top of that, there's extremely huge emissions tied to lithium mining and transportation. So, emissions are not tied to just manufacturing. Emissions are tied to the type of raw material and components we source. And at the same time, with regards to the key components which are used within our vehicles, they cannot be recycled easily. So when we are facing all these issues, can we actually say that we are trying to achieve sustainability, or can we actually think in terms of trying to achieve sustainability currently as well as in the future? So tied to all this information, the probable exam scenarios could be tested concerning your ability to evaluate strategic options. So whenever we are faced with a strategic option, you need to have the capability of understanding whether each option is aligned with the current vision, mission, and values, as well as, in certain questions, you are supposed to utilize the SAF framework, or the suitability, acceptability, and the feasibility framework when evaluating a strategic option. And when under the suitability element of the SAF framework, you are supposed to consider the current mission, vision, and values versus the strategic option at hand. So your knowledge concerning evaluating strategic options in multiple angles can be tested. Don't worry, I've covered both angles within the mocks. And on top of that, you are expected to recommend internal controls in relation to ensuring quality and sustainability in operations, ensuring innovation, safety, risk management, as well as ensuring ethical business practices, and the success of managing stakeholders. So concerning all these elements, expect to suggest internal controls. Okay, then let's look at the board members. Our board members, if you look at all this information in a nutshell, our board members are skilled, educated, and experienced, which is good for corporate governance. They are well poised to offer good leadership to this organization, and they have an appropriate level of industry knowledge as well as experience within Cewmlator. And looking at their backgrounds or expertise, they come from various different backgrounds. One is well versed with law concerning, or legal matters concerning, mergers and acquisitions. And there's another board member who is well versed with chemistry, and some others are well versed with mechanical, electrical, and aeronautical engineering. Our finance director comes from an economics and accountancy background, and our marketing, our sales director comes from a marketing and sales background. But I have my doubts about the skills and capabilities of the marketing and sales director. I'm going to talk about our sales director, to be precise. I'm going to talk about this individual in a little while. And one of our non-executives comes from a political background, especially tied to sustainability. And another non-executive is used to be a journalist, a well-known journalist. We have academia within our board, as well as one who is well versed with research and development tied to fuel consumption. So all these things are good. However, there's an imbalance between executive directors and independent non-executive directors, because there are 5 executive directors, yet there are just 4 independent non-executive directors, which exposes us to governance risk. Why am I saying this? Because as per corporate governance best practices, which is highlighted under the combined code of corporate governance, which is practiced in the UK, there should be a good balance between executive directors and non-executive directors. So if there are 5 execs, there should be 5 non-execs, but you can't see it within our company. And this exposes us to governance risk. Why? Because the executive directors are supposed to manage the company on a daily basis and provide strategic leadership. However, the non-executives are there to represent shareholder interests. If not, the executive directors can come up with their own decisions and disregard the needs of shareholders and think only about the bonuses which they are going to gain, which leads to short-termist decisions. So in order to avoid short-termism, with the intention of representing shareholder interests within a board appoints non-executive directors. So there should be a good balance between execs and non-execs. If not, the executive directors can overpower the non-executive directors. Therefore, vicariously, shareholder interests will be suppressed within the board. So I'm not saying that this is happening within your company, but this exposes us to the possibility of governance risk given the imbalance between our board members. And some board members held academic posts, which is good for research and development as well as recruitment initiatives. So the overall analysis is the fact that board responsibilities are properly allocated. However, I've encountered some shortcomings as well, and focused on each shortcoming, I've come up with a set of solutions. So first things first, there is no focus on commercial strategy beyond traditional sales. So let's look at the sales director's background. Stella Freeman, our sales director, has had extensive experience in sales. She studied for diploma in marketing. So she only has a diploma in marketing. We are a multinational company. So is she well poised to provide leadership in terms of sales just by having a diploma in marketing? So this raises a concern, and she has held several increasingly senior roles with a variety of major companies. There's no mention about the fact that whether she had worked within this industry or some other industry. Stella joined Cewmlator in 2020, initially to assist in the development of online marketing for the group. So she has some experience in online marketing because she has worked within our company by focusing on online marketing. And although this is something positive, although this is something positive, we cannot really vouch for the skills and capabilities of our sales director, because I feel that she only has a diploma in marketing. So there could be a lack of experience, and at the same time, it appears that she has not worked within this industry before joining us. Okay, so that's a problem. That's what I've highlighted in here. Sales director's background is mainly sales with recent exposure to online marketing, and it appears that she carries limited EV specific sales or international B2C, B2B related sales relationships, which is essential when providing leadership at the board level within a BEV manufacturer, which is operating in multiple countries and dealing with various different stakeholders spread across the world. And there is no director with specific internal audit, regulatory compliance, or enterprise risk management expertise, which is a key issue, because it's essential in this day and age. There should be skilled and competent individuals who are looking into internal audit, ensuring regulatory compliance, especially given the fact that a lot of laws are supposed to come into play within this industry. As I mentioned earlier, this industry is in the growth stage. So whenever such an industry exists, the regulators will keep changing the laws and regulations. So it's essential that someone who comes from this type of a background is operating as a director. And on top of that, none of our board members carry an enterprise risk management background, as per the information which the examiner has shared with you via the Preseen. So this might expose us to compliance gaps, especially tied to the way in which we dispose of our batteries, and gaps concerning data protection, because EVs are data rich. As I mentioned earlier, we gather a lot of data from vehicles to keep tabs about performance, and we use various different software as well. So this exposes us to the risk of data breaches, and we should ensure that we uphold the privacy of individual customers who end up using our vehicles. So there's none who comes from this background, and at the same time, due to these compliance gaps, we might be exposed to product liability and vehicle safety recalls as well. And there's another issue. We don't have a CIO or a CTO, a Chief Information Officer or a Chief Technology Officer. And if you are exposed to cybersecurity risks, then we won't know how to deal with these things, especially given the fact that our cars are connected. And also we are gathering a lot of data from our vehicles, which exposes us to data privacy issues. And on top of that, we don't have a CSO, a separate Chief Sustainability Officer, or we don't have a separate sustainability committee. We do have a CSR committee, but we don't have a specific sustainability committee, because as you know, sustainability transcends CSR. So if you are to achieve real sustainability, I feel that it's better to have a separate board committee which looks into sustainability, or we should change the remit of the existing CSR committee to include sustainability responsibilities. Or in other terms, or on the other hand, rather, we can appoint a separate board member who looks into sustainability, thereby appointing someone like a CSO or Chief Sustainability Officer. If we do so, we will comply with all changing rules and regulations. We are well poised to be engaged with ethical sourcing practices, which in turn will lead to long-term ESG commitments. So the solution to all these problems is to appoint various different executive or non-executive directors. So at your exam, you will see these type of scenarios in which, for instance, there could be a question which is tied to us appointing CIO. And when doing so, the examiner might ask as to whether we should go for an executive position or a non-executive position. So you should have the capability of evaluating between us appointing an exec against a non-exec with regards to cyber security or data security and privacy leadership within the organization. So tied to all these issues, we can appoint an executive director or a non-executive director with risk management expertise, commercial strategy expertise, someone with IT or tech expertise, or appoint a CSO, or come up with or develop a separate sustainability committee, or change the remit of the existing CSR committee. So the probable exam scenarios could be tied to how aligned our board composition is with corporate governance best practices. You should have the capability of criticizing the current composition of the board against corporate governance best practices, and your knowledge concerning board responsibilities will be tested. You should know what each type of board member is supposed to do and how to deal with a board restructure. And when it comes to appointing a board committee, there's a specific way in which you should tackle these elements. So your knowledge will be tested in this area. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to appointing an executive director versus a non-executive director, you should look at various different angles. So all these elements will be tested, and how to dismiss a director, as well as how to stipulate directors' remuneration, and how to conduct lobbying initiatives in the most ethical manner, and how to deal with disclosures, especially concerning ethics. can be tested at your examination. Don't worry, I've covered all these scenarios when developing the 6 mock exams. All right, so then I want to quickly direct your attention towards board committees. As you can see, there are 4 different board committees, and this simple difference which you see when you compare with the previous Preseens, because there used to be just a risk committee in the previous Preseens, but in your company, CSR is combined, or corporate social responsibility is combined with risk leadership. So there are 4 different committees, which are audit, risk and CSR, remuneration and nomination. As you know, the audit committee is supposed to set the control environment of your chosen organization, and the audit committee is supposed to provide leadership to the internal audit department. All right, so that's what the audit committee is all about. And when looking at the composition of the audit committee, as per corporate governance best practices, 100% of audit committee's members should be independent non-executive directors. And therefore, Suren Pillai, our non-executive chair, being part and parcel of the audit committee, goes against corporate governance best practices. So this is shortcoming within our company. The non-executive chair should not be in the audit committee, which therefore exposes us to governance risks. And looking at the remit of the risk and CSR committee, any given company, a quoted company, should have a separate risk committee, and 50%, at least 50% of the risk committee's membership should be made out of non-executive directors, and we have achieved just that. And looking at the remuneration committee, again, 50%, at least 50% of the members within the remuneration and nomination committee should be non-executive directors, and we have achieved this across the risk and CSR, remuneration, as well as the nomination committees. And on top of that, talking about the responsibilities of each of these committees, the risk committee is supposed to keep track of various different risks we are exposed to. The risk committee is supposed to predict future risks as well as come up with appropriate mitigatory strategies. Therefore, the risk committee carries the responsibility of updating the risk register of your chosen company, and they are supposed to look into CSR elements as well. I feel that this committee is overburdened, especially given the fact that we are supposed to achieve sustainability. We are supposed to fall in line with future regulations which are tied to sustainability. I feel that it's better to appoint a separate committee which looks into sustainability rather than asking those who are involved with risk identification and containment strategies. And looking at our remuneration committee, the remuneration committee is supposed to determine the salaries, bonuses, as well as non-financial incentives of our board members. Because as you know, as per corporate governance best practices, the executive directors cannot determine their own salaries. Instead, it should be determined by the remuneration committee. And within our remuneration committee, out of the 3 members, 2 are non-executive directors, which highlights the fact that shareholder interests are represented when it comes to determining remuneration of our board members, which is good for corporate governance. And looking at the nomination committee, when it comes to board appointments, the board members cannot appoint their own individuals or their because if we let the executive directors decide about board appointments, they will appoint their own relatives or their friends and whatnot, which gives them increasing amounts of power over our entire company. So in order to avoid such a situation, as per corporate governance best practices, we are supposed to appoint a separate committee, which is known as the nomination committee, which is supposed to, whenever we are replacing a board member or making a board appointment, before we do so, the nomination committee should come up with a short list of candidates, and the short list of candidates will be shared with shareholders, and the shareholders will take an informed decisions when it comes to board appointments. So what you need to remember is the nomination committee cannot appoint board members. However, they are involved with the process of shortlisting candidates, and it is the responsibility of the shareholders to appoint board members. That is why we have a separate nomination committee, and the membership within the nomination committee is well balanced, which is good for corporate governance. And the syllabus areas tested is with regards to the combined code of corporate governance, which is practiced in the UK, which is covered within your E3 syllabus. And having said that, I'm going to take you through the risk report. I don't have time to take you through the entire risk report because I've already conducted or developed 4 different Preseen analysis videos, which can be accessed via the paid content via your student dashboard. So I'm simply going to direct your attention towards one single risk and highlight how you should approach this risk register or the principal risks which appear within your Preseen document. So as you can see, there are 6 different risks being identified. So first things first, you should be able to identify, or you should have the capability of evaluating the current mitigatory strategies in place, and then, if and when necessary, you should have the capability of coming up with enhanced mitigatory strategies to further insulate us from each of these risks. So that is exactly what I've done here, so that you'd gain a better understanding easily by reading through these points which I've included within the annotated Preseen. So I want to direct your attention towards the second risk which appears within your risk register, which is tied to changing consumer preference, especially concerning charging infrastructure. Why did I pick this risk? Because it has a direct link to one of the news articles which appears within your Preseen document. So you need to have an understanding of the linkages between the internals of your company and what appears within the news articles within your Preseen. So that is exactly why I selected this second risk, which because it is directly linked to one of the news articles. So the second risk which appears within our risk register is tied to the attractiveness of BEVs, which can be undermined due to poor charging infrastructure or better alternatives emerging. So as I mentioned earlier, we are at the growth stage. This industry is at the growth stage. So in the future, there could be better alternatives which might pop up within this industry. So, and it's not helping when the charging infrastructure is poor. So the current mitigatory strategies adopted by the company with the intention of managing these risks is to collaborate with regulators and charging providers. Because if we collaborate with regulators, we will be kept informed of future laws and regulations which might impact us adversely. And on top of that, when we collaborate with charging providers, we are effectively taking steps towards enhancing charging infrastructure or enhancing access to charging infrastructure. And also, we are involved with promoting BEVs as a clean and sustainable solution. I have my doubts about sustainability because, yes, when they are driven, they are clean. There aren't any emissions. But when it comes to manufacturing, when you compare the entire lifetime of or the life cycle of an electric vehicle, it carries higher emissions compared to an ICE vehicle. So just because we promote BEVs as clean and sustainable, are we addressing poor charging infrastructure? No. Are we insulating us against better alternatives emerging? Absolutely not. So the assessment is the fact that it shows proactive external engagement. So we are trying to engage with external parties such as charging providers, regulators, and customers. That's why we are trying to promote our brand as sustainable. So we are involved with proactive external engagement. However, there is no reference to proprietary or in-house infrastructure support. So we are not into manufacturing charging infrastructure at the moment. So rather than trying to fix this problem internally by doing something internally, we are trying to simply, negotiate or deal with various different stakeholders. Therefore, I feel that we have not actually insulated us against the second risk, which is tied to changing consumer preference. So because of that, I've suggested enhancements. The first and the most prominent enhancement is to explore strategic partnerships, joint ventures, or mergers and acquisitions with charging network operators. So definitely this type of a scenario will be tested at the exam. Why am I saying this? Because it appears within one of the news articles. So this news article highlights information about local governments' reluctance to install public EV charging points. So this news article gives us an indication that local governments are not too encouraged to set up charging points. Why? Because of the cost, which is $60,000 per charging point. So this is a significant cost for the public sector. This is not too significant for us. Why? Because our profits and our financials are in billions. So $60,000 is peanuts for us. However, when you look at the public sector, this is going to be extremely expensive. So because of that, local governments are reluctant to invest on setting up public charging points. So why should local governments look into this? Especially given the fact that it is the regulators who are supposed to come up with laws which is supposed to prevent the manufacture of ICE vehicles by 2030. So if the regulators or the politicians come up with these laws and regulations, the local governments should work towards a practical solution which ensures that we can practically implement these laws and regulations. So that's why local governments are supposed to push the demand for electric vehicles by setting up charging points, public charging points. But given the cost, they are not too keen to set up charging points on their own. And many motorists don't have access to off-street parking, as I mentioned earlier, because when I was taking you through the industry dynamics, I mentioned the fact that 20% of customers who had invested on a BEV relies on public charging. They don't have access to home charging. So this is a huge market. Out of all our customers, we can assume that 20% don't have access to home charging. So if we pursue some type of related diversification, which is to diversify into setting up public charging points, then we are in a position to generate some additional revenue, because definitely 20%, as per the industry dynamics, 20% of our customers are looking for or reliant on public charging points. And if we set up our own public charging points, we are in a position to generate some additional revenues. And this will lead to customer satisfaction. And in the future, a customer who has not purchased one of our BEVs might think about purchasing, because when they know for a fact that we are taking steps to set up public charging points, then they know that we are effectively taking steps to eradicate the issue tied to a lack of public charging points. Okay, so and cost to install a rapid charger is extremely high, and this is too high for local governments. So the probable exam scenarios which can be tested is with regards to setting up charging points. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm recommending in here. So the enhancement with the intention of ensuring that we get rid of this charging infrastructure issue is to explore strategic partnerships, joint ventures, or mergers and acquisitions with charging network operators. So that's one of the scenarios which can be tested at your exam. So when setting up these charging points, we can develop them organically, in which we develop our own charging points on our own, or else we can go for inorganic development, in which we can acquire an existing charging network provider. As per one of the news articles which appears within your same Preseen, there are 12 different companies which are providing charging network related services. So rather than trying to develop internal capabilities on our own, we can go for inorganic development, in which we acquire one of the 12 charging network providers which operate within Duxland. So that's considered as an acquisition. Or there's another alternative in which we can pursue some type of a partnership. We can go for a PPP, or a private-public partnership with local governments, in which we share the cost of setting up these rapid charges. So for instance, we can say, okay, we are going to invest 80% for these charges of the cost of these charges, whereas the local government has to put in 20%. And by doing so, we will benefit from the relationships with the regulators, with the local governments, and we will easily gain access to good locations in which we can set up our charging points. So these are the type of strategic options at our disposal if we set up charging, if we decide to set up charging points. And when dealing with local governments, you have to lobby, and when doing so, you have to do it in an ethical manner. And also, this exposes us to various different risks because we are trying to do something new. We are trying to do something for the first time. So definitely, we are exposed to some type of additional risks, and also some type of additional stakeholder issues, because at the moment we are not dealing with local governments, but if we go down this route, we will have to deal with local governments, and this might expose us to stakeholder management related issues. So the syllabus areas which can be tested are tied to, if we try to set up charging points, your knowledge concerning the SAF framework, the suitability, acceptability, and the feasibility framework will be tested. So under suitability, you should have the capability of evaluating whether this strategic option is aligned with the vision, mission, and values of our company, the existing vision, mission, and values, and this existing business model. And under acceptability, you have to see how this initiative is going to impact our major stakeholders. And under feasibility, you have to see whether we have the necessary financial resources as well as non-financial resources to implement this decision to set up charging points without any hiccups. So that's your knowledge concerning the SAF framework. And whenever your knowledge concerning ethical business practices are tested, the COPPF framework should be utilized. The confidentiality, objectivity, professional competence, and due care, professional behavior, and integrity framework. Also, when managing stakeholders, your knowledge concerning Mendelow's matrix will be tested. And when we are exposed to various type of risks, how it impacts our share price, as well as your knowledge concerning risk identification and mitigation will be tested concerning the operational risks which we are exposed to when trying to set up charging points. And if you are exposed to operational risks, then we'll be exposed to reputational risks as well. And when exposed to these type of risks, before you manage each type of risk, you should categorize them utilizing the TARA framework. And also, there's a way in which you should update the risk register. There's a methodology or a 3-step process which you need to adhere to. So your knowledge concerning these areas, along with your ability to suggest internal controls with the intention of preventing any type of risk from materializing in the future, will be tested at the examination. So there's a direct link with the second risk which appears within your risk report with one of the news articles. So on top of that, we should consider launching a Cewmlator branded app to map charging locations and offer route planning along with 24/7 EV specialist roadside assistance with the intention of satisfying customers. Okay, so rather than going for external engagement, we have to do something to get rid of this risk or insulate us against this risk fully. All right, so on top of that, when looking at the risk register, I don't have time to take you through all these risks. When looking at the risk register, so you understood how to deal with the existing risks which appear within your risk register and how to come up with enhancements. And on top of that, you need to have a good understanding of the notable gaps by looking at your existing risk register. So all the 6 different risks are highlighted within your risk report. The risk committee has missed out on certain risks, important risks, which should have appeared within your risk report. So these type of risks are highlighted under notable gaps, and I've evaluated each type of risk, explaining as to why it matters, and also I've come up with or I've suggested appropriate recommendations. Because if your knowledge concerning a question tied to updating the risk register is tested, this type of a scenario which is tied to cybersecurity and data privacy can be thrown at you. If so, you should have the capability of suggesting recommendations and highlighting how you should update the risk register. So why am I saying that this is a major risk which we should have considered within our risk register, given the fact that our vehicles are equipped with advanced software systems, as well as in this day and age, in this industry, vehicles and companion apps collect a wide range of data. So it's essential that we ensure cybersecurity and data privacy of the users of these vehicles. So why it matters is the fact that a breach could lead to vehicle control issues or customer data exposure. So if someone breaches our internal systems, it might impact the performance of the vehicles. The vehicles could come to a grinding halt. And on top of that, customers might be exposed to data privacy issues. And also, if these type of issues are faced by customers, this will lead to vehicle recalls, and this in turn leads to reputational damage, and privacy breaches brings regulatory and reputational risks as well. So the recommendations I've suggested in order to overcome these issues is to appoint a chief information security officer, or we can simply appoint a CIO. I highlighted the fact that this is a shortcoming of our organization because there is no director who comes from technology or information related background. That is why we don't have a separate CTO or a CIO. So it's essential that we set up a CIO. If so, this individual will be well versed to provide strategic leadership concerning cybersecurity and data privacy issues. Probably because of the fact that there's none of our board members who come from this type of a background, the risk committee has not considered the cybersecurity and data privacy risk within the risk report. They should have done so, but it doesn't appear, probably because of a lack of leadership in this area. That is why I'm suggesting that we should appoint a CISO or a CIO. And we should include cybersecurity and privacy oversight in the risk and CSR committee. And on top of that, we have to perform regular penetration tests and data encryption audits to see whether our internal systems are well guarded. And on top of that, we have to require supplier security and privacy attestations as well, because we are reliant on various different suppliers. And when this is the case, if a supplier is exposed to a data breach due to such an issue, if we are in turn exposed to a data breach, then it will impact our internal operations in a negative manner. So in order to prevent these type of breaches from occurring, we have to ensure that not just our internal systems are safeguarded, we have to ensure that the suppliers are upholding the same type of standards which should be practiced within Cewmlator. So these are shortcoming, and I've explained how to fix these type of problems. And finally, I want to direct your attention towards the sustainability report. So there are 4 angles considered when this company has developed the sustainability report, which are governance, how to inculcate sustainability into strategy, risk management initiatives, and the type of metrics used within the company to keep tabs about how we manage sustainability. So directors receive a sustainability report at each board meeting, which is great. So we are not carrying out or keeping tabs about sustainability achievement as a one-off or an annual only concern. Instead, at each board meeting, each board member is receiving reports about sustainability, which is good, which indicates the fact that we have inculcated sustainability into our governance practices. And the risk and CSR committee is assigned the responsibility of looking into sustainability initiatives. And all this information indicates the fact that sustainability is embedded into our formal governance structure. And since we are thinking in terms of sustainability when it comes to governance, sustainability is integrated into our strategy development initiatives as well, because the sustainability report highlights the impact of manufacturing. And at the same time, sustainability appears to be at the heart of our mission statement. And there's a mention about sustainability within the vision and values as well. So this reflects stakeholder inclusivity and customer-centric sustainability goals, which is good for long-term value creation. This will attract ESG conscious stakeholders, as well as looking at risk management initiatives. We openly acknowledge within our report about the fact that EVs are carrying higher manufacturing emissions. So we are not trying to hide this fact. Instead, we are open about it. And we are also working on longer life, lower impact battery manufacturing. And we are closely monitoring evolving regulatory risks to make sure that we fall in line with future regulatory changes. So the evaluation is the fact that there's a maturity in risk reporting, because we are not trying to greenwash, we are not trying to hide. Instead, we are vocal about, or we are open about the issues we are facing with regards to sustainability. And also there's a mention about various different metrics used within your company to keep tabs about sustainability performance, which are tied to disclosures concerning electricity consumption, CO2 emissions, and manufacturing waste. And there are year-on-year comparisons provided between the years 2024 and 2023. And clearly there are improvements which are visible. And the KPIs used to keep tabs about sustainability reflect performance-based sustainability tracking, which is good for business. However, I've encountered some shortcomings as well. Only Scope 2 energy-related emissions are disclosed. There's no mention about Scope 3 emissions, such as achieving sustainability across our supply chain, how to achieve sustainability whilst our products are being used by customers, as well as how to achieve sustainability tied to battery disposal. There's no mention about these elements, and this might undermine stakeholder confidence in the future. And there aren't any targets or timelines tied to sustainability, because there's no mention about an emission reduction target. Yes, we are keeping tabs about emissions, wastage, electricity consumption, but there's no mention about what we intend to achieve. There's no point of trying to blindly reduce our waste, reduce our CO2 emissions, or reduce our electricity consumption. Rather than doing so, it's best if we come up with standards or targets to achieve real sustainability. So that's something which is lacking within your company. And we are not referring to industry frameworks. We are not comparing our performance with industry-based practices as well. And also, it appears that sustainability is framed mainly as operational, not strategic, because our sustainability initiatives or sustainability angles are largely focused on manufacturing impacts and product level design. We have not mentioned about ESG concerns such as ethical sourcing, the value of ethical sourcing, because if you are to achieve real sustainability, we have to engage with suppliers who are involved with ethical sourcing practices. Also, we are not considering about human rights in supply chains and policies such as diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially when looking at staff relationships and looking at the workers who are employed within our suppliers. And there's no mention about stakeholder engagement and transparency concerning these, considering these ESG concerns. And therefore, I feel that sustainability appears siloed within operations and R&D rather than being integrated across the enterprise or across the value network. And there aren't any independent assurances or external benchmarking considered, because we are not relying on external verifications. We are not relying on sustainability ratings, as well as we are not relying on benchmarks which should be used to benchmark our performance against best practices, sustainability best practices within this industry. So I've come up with a synopsis there by highlighting the shortcomings and suggesting recommendations so that you can easily remember these things at your examination. Okay, so these are the things which I wanted to highlight. So I'm done with the industry and Preseen analysis. And if you have any questions, you can drop us a message via the chat. Whilst you are doing so, let me quickly tell you what we offer at TCS. So I'm on the SCS page. If you are yet to create a free user account, click on this button and create a free user account. Then you'd gain access to the student dashboard. So via the student dashboard, you'd gain access to the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops, the free mock exam with its suggested answer and the answer plan, which is mock exam 1. Also, you have the opportunity of attempting mock exam 1 under exam conditions across 3 hours via the TCS's exam platform. So this exam platform is the exact replica of the Pearson VUE system on which you'd attempt your real examination. So even under the free course, you have the opportunity of attempting one single mock exam under exam conditions via TCS's exam platform. So click on this button and create your free use account. And if you're interested in investing on our paid content, click on this button and check our sample material before you do so. And I invite you to join our SCS WhatsApp group. You can simply join it by clicking on this button. We will keep you guys informed about the weekly commencement dates and times of our webinars and workshops. We will also share hordes of free content with you. And also, I'm always there to help you whenever you have questions or queries. All right, so talking about what we offer two packages, the Essential course and the Premium course. The Essential course is designed for those who have completed their OTQ exams or who have already completed their E3, F3, and P3 OTQs. So since you have completed your OTQs, you have already learned theory. You simply need to improve your application skills in order to succeed at this exam. So under the Essential course, we have included resources with the intention of ensuring that you understand how each syllabus area is tested and you can work on application on your own. So you'd gain access to the recordings of all weekly webinars and workshops, 6 mock exams with suggested answers. And when developing these 6 mocks, we have made sure to cover all syllabus areas to ensure that you are not testing your luck at your real exam. And you'd also gain access to 4 Preseen analysis videos in total. You saw how we conduct our Preseen analysis. So similarly, you will gain access to all 4 videos. Then you'd also gain access to the annotated Preseen, industry analysis, and financial analysis slides. You saw all these resources a while back. You will also gain access to the top 20 likely issue slides, which indicate the most probable scenarios which can be tested. You will gain access to a case study familiarization kit. Once you have read through this kit, you will gain an in-depth understanding about the technicalities of your exam. Also, you would gain access to a tutor-managed live chat and OTQ revision cards. So after attempting each mock exam, if you feel that you need to brush up your knowledge or if you had forgotten a certain syllabus area, simply refer to these OTQ revision cards in a jiffy. You are in a position to brush up your knowledge. So the Essential course is priced at £299. And talking about the Premium course, this is designed for those who have completed, those who have failed the SCS exam previously, and those who are coming through the exemption routes. So both these sets of students have the same problem. There are gaps in theory knowledge as well as issues with application. So with the intention of teaching you theory and application within a short period of time, we have included some additional resources under the Premium course on top of what appears within the Essential course. So under the Premium course, you'd gain access to the online mock exam platform on which you can attempt all 6 mock exams under exam conditions, which ensures that you have the opportunity of practicing your answering, time management, and stress management techniques. You will also gain access to answer plans of all 6 mock exams. No study provider is sharing answer plans with you. So we have gone a step further. On top of sharing suggested answers with you, we are also sharing answer plans. And when you have access to these answer plans, you can easily figure out the logic behind each answer. You can easily understand how to structure your answers. And when it comes to revision, it makes your life easy because you are supposed to revise your knowledge by trying to redevelop these answer plans. And as long as you can redevelop answer plans which are akin to TCSs, you will get good marks at your real examination. And you'd also gain access to 15 masterclasses if you invest on Premium. So from mocks 2 to 6, we have developed 15 masterclasses. And in each masterclass, the objective is to take you through the logic of each section which is contained within our mock exams, and at the same time teaching you the theoretical concepts covered within the mock exam and teaching you application. So you need not worry about learning theory and application, because most students try to learn theory in isolation and then try to figure out application on their own. You need not worry about it because we have covered both these elements via the masterclasses. So in a short period of time, you can learn theory and within the same video, you can learn application as well. Also, you'd receive one-on-one tutor feedback on 2 mock exams, namely mocks 3 and 5. So these are the type of feedback on offer at TCS. As you can see, we have evaluated each and every point in depth, thereby highlighting your issues. And at the very end, there are mark allocations on a subtask by subtask basis. We have also indicated a success rate, which indicates the subtasks in which your performance was substandard. So after receiving this type of feedback, focusing on the subtasks which are highlighted in yellow. You are supposed to redevelop answer plans. This is the best type of revision you can be involved with. You should be involved with, given the fact that you just have 6 weeks at your disposal until your examination. So the premium course is priced at £849, which can be paid in 2 installments of £424 each. Or if you opt to pay in full, you will save £100 and the price will be just £749. So you can invest on your preferred course by clicking on either of these buttons. And all products are available until the 28th of February 2026. So if you are planning to sit for the SCS exams happening in February, you can invest right now and gain access to the resources, which gives you some additional time to conduct your preparations. And having said that, let me quickly tell you what you are supposed to achieve within this week as per our study plan. So as per the study plan, we are in week number 2. You are supposed to dedicate 8 hours of your study time, and within this week you are supposed to master the Preseen document. So you are supposed to watch the 4 Preseen analysis videos. Once you have gotten an in-depth understanding, then refer to the annotated Preseen as well as the industry and financial analysis slides on your own, thereby conducting your own revision. And once you have mastered the Preseen, from next week onwards, you are supposed to start your mock attempts. Do not attempt any mock exams as yet. We have released the first mock exam. We didn't release, we have already developed 5 mocks. We didn't release the rest because there's a tendency for students to go through mock exams. So don't go through mocks. Wait until we are done with the 3rd webinar, in which I'm going to teach you answering and time management techniques. After learning these techniques, practice your skills and capabilities by attempting mock number 1 under exam conditions via our exam platform, which can be accessed via the paid as well as free content. So don't attempt mock exams as yet. Simply focus your attention towards decrypting Preseen info within this week. So you are supposed to dedicate 8 hours of study time within this week. All right. And if you stick to our study plan, you can pass easily. That is why we achieved a 92% pass rate in the exams which were conducted in May. And you can easily achieve a pass if you're committed and if you stick to our study plan, because don't wait until the last moment. Start your preparations right now. If so, you will have the opportunity of attempting each mock on a weekly basis, and also you will have enough time to conduct your revision, because you cannot pass this exam just because you attempt the 6 mocks. You have to spend some time to revise your knowledge, refine your answering technique, because since this is the final exam in your CIMA journey, definitely this is going to be a tough exam. The examiner is definitely trying to make sure that you are well versed and you are capable and you deserve to become a management accountant once you're done with this exam. So stick to the process. If you do so, you can pass easily. Having said that, I'm moving to the Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can switch on your mic and talk, or drop us a message via the chat. I'm going to pause the recording. All right, folks. So thank you very much for those questions. I hope I addressed everything. And if you want to contact us, you can do it via our website, which is www.study@tcs.com. Visit our website and click on the contact button and drop us a message. Our admin staff will get in touch with you via email during office hours, or you can directly email us at info@study@tcs.com, or WhatsApp us on this number for instantaneous relations. And if you, I urge you guys to, follow us on our social media handles, especially YouTube and TikTok, because we have already released TikTok videos, which makes up the Preseen mind map. So keep watching these 6 TikTok videos on a daily basis, for instance, on your way to office, to keep yourself constantly reminded of the most important points which appear within your Preseen. Also, the recorded versions of the weekly webinars and workshops will be uploaded to our YouTube handle. And I also urge you guys to read the blog post which we have developed concerning Cewmlator, so that you have a good understanding of what your company is. And closer to the exam, I want you guys to read through this so that you are brushing up your knowledge in a jiffy. All right, so having said that, it brings us to the end of the Preseen analysis. Thank you very much for joining this session. I hope you gain something out of this. And most importantly, I hope you'd start your preparations right now rather than waiting until the last moment, because as per the study plan, you are supposed to figure out your pre-scene within this week. If so, you can easily kickstart your mock attempts from next week onwards. And I invite you guys to attend next week's webinar, in which I'm going to teach you crucial answering and time management techniques. After learning these elements, you are supposed to kickstart your mock attempts. So I hope you will be disciplined, you will stick to our study plan. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can always WhatsApp us via the WhatsApp number I showed a while back. So thank you for joining. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope to see you guys next week at the third webinar. Thank you. Good night and take care.